Yeah, where the push and pull between the opposition and the ruling Jubilee coalition continues, a day after opposition members of parliament successfully defeated plans to have electoral rules changed to provide for the use of both manual and electronic election results transmission in next year's general elections. Now, for the latest on what is happening, we're now joined live by our senior political affairs reporter, Duncan Haemba, from our studios in Nairobi's business district. Haemba, it's good to see you. A good afternoon. A long day for you yesterday following events in Parliament. And today there is a Gazette notice for another sitting, isn't there?
Yes, Gazette notice that seemed to have gotten many by surprise given the timing. Remember that as early as 1 in the morning, the Gazette notice was already out, an indication that Jubilee already had another plan under its sleeve when I think they realized that they are not going to make any headway yesterday, whereas the session was getting chaotic. Already there was a Gazette notice that was being signed and or sent to the government printer for that matter. So members of parliament have woken up to another Gazette notice requiring them to be seated tomorrow from 9:30 again. So that tells you how stakes are high, how the political games are equally high. Just a matter of hours now to see who will win in the second round of the special sitting. Sophia.
Can explain to our viewers what really here is the point of contention. What's the departure for both sides in as far as the electoral rules are concerned?
Well, the opposition has stuck to their guns that biometric electronic voting is the way to go. They are saying this is a Jubilee administration that came to power on the platform of being a digital team. And as such, they don't want to have anything to do with analog or manual for that matter. Therefore, they are saying they can only entrust electronic voting. On the other hand, the government says, hey, we are dealing with technology. Anything can go wrong. And as such, we need to have a backup plan. They are saying we need to have a manual voting system in the event or in the unlikely event that the technology fails on that material day on 8th of August. Then there is a plan B in place that will ensure that Sophia Onuna, as a voter, the moment you present yourself at a polling station, if you cannot be identified electronically, then so long as you are there physical with your ID, your voter's card, and they can see you on that national ID, then you have every right to be given the go-ahead to vote. So that is the point of departure. To the opposition, they are saying the Electoral Boundaries Commission doesn't have a specific register. That was a question that was put to the Supreme Court when the CORD team challenged the presidential results in 2013. And to be honest, the commission said there were various registers and they could not ascertain which one was which. So the opposition says as far as they stand, there's no voter register in place. And remember that the opposition was pushing for a clean voters register. They were told that is not possible because of financial constraints and time. Then they agreed on a middle ground that then we have to clean up the existing one. Even though they agreed to that, they are not so certain which register is in place. Therefore, the opposition wants to cling on the electronic voting system. The government says we have no problem with electronic, but in the unlikely event that there are hitches to do with technology, then it cannot mean that people can't vote. We need to have a backup, which is a manual, and that is the bone of contention. The opposition doesn't want any law touched or amended. The government says we cannot shoot ourselves in the foot. We have to do something, and that is why there's that push and pull, Sophia.
And Duncan, what is the opposition saying that in the event there is a failure in technology, then what becomes plan B if they do not want IEBC to revert to the manual system? Is it to call off the election?
Well, the opposition says that the law at hand that was actually ascended to by the president and came into effect on 14th October, of course, after the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee had banned the midnight oil, then to make sure that the previous laws are amended and then they have the new ones. They said that they had looked at everything in totality and they were certain that things have to move in a manner in which both sides negotiated. And therefore, they are saying for the government to make a U-turn and say that we need to amend that law to ensure that we have a backup plan. To them, they are reading a sinister motive. Of course, they are claiming that that is the plan that the government wants to use to rig elections. And that's why they are not so sure. To them, they are saying they are reading a sinister motive in all this, because they are saying it can't be that the government just realized the other day that there could be hitches and therefore they have to resort to a manual voting system. So it's the issue of suspicion at play, which neither of the sides is trusting the other. Remember on Sunday, the Jubilee Party, led by the leader of majority in Parliament, the National Assembly, Eden Duale, claimed that CORD has a Michael Yard that is working in cahoots with the team and the IBC to use technology to rig elections, and therefore they need a plan B. So the government says the opposition is planning with the help of foreign agencies to rig the elections. The opposition, on the other hand, is saying the government has sensed that it will be beaten hands down. Now it wants to amend the law to create room for stealing the election. So it's the suspicion here that is at play, but we are not so sure which side is telling the truth, because each side is reading a sinister motive in what the other one has. So we don't know how things will be. And tomorrow, Sophia, unlike yesterday, where the whole session ended in disarray after a technicality, because they said the House cannot sit past 6:30, which was the gazetted time. Tomorrow, the Gazette notice says from 9:30, then 2:30 until midnight, which means they will be in Parliament entire day and then late into the night. So if the drama we witnessed yesterday will still be the one tomorrow, then we'll have longer hours of drama in Parliament tomorrow, Sophia.
Duncan, finally, bottom line, Jubilee has the numbers. So is this a foregone matter in as far as who will carry the day?
Not at all, not at all. If Jubilee could be priding itself in numbers, then they would have had it easily yesterday. You have no idea what will transpire. Remember that yesterday, before they adjourned at 1:30, the issue of who had generated the motion that was to be debated came up. The members of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which was supposed to generate that motion, they distanced themselves and said at no particular point did we agree as a committee that this one has to come to the floor of the House. The chairman himself came and said he's not the author of that, neither is not the committee. He said that was an IBC matter, and as such he was ordered to go and produce a report. In a report, usually there are two sides. The committee can either agree in totality and therefore they submit one report that they agreed unanimous, but in the event that there are people who dissented, then there's a minority report which is actually annexed to the main report, and therefore you'll be able to say out of 29 members, 20 were in agreement, 9 didn't. This is the report for the minority, 9. This is the report for the majority, and therefore the House can debate on that level. So already they said they want to know who originated, or rather who originated that report and how did it find itself onto the order paper if the committee did not sanction, and if at all it did not have the blessings of the committee. So that is something that tomorrow could also come to play. Of course, that one will have nothing to do with the numbers, but they will debate on the merit of the document that the Samuel Chepkonga, the chair, will have presented before Parliament. And then secondly, we saw some members that were also not yesterday seemingly not reading much or playing according to the script, whereas there were members that were fully at the forefront, pro-Jubilee, pro-CORD. There are some that were just going around their business, engaging with the media here and there. They were actually less interested in the fiasco that was unfolding. So we are not so sure in terms of whipping up numbers what will come at play. So we cannot entirely say that Jubilee has secure in their numbers, or Jubilee secure in their numbers, because it's on the floor of the House and then it can go either way, Sophia.
Duncan Hayemba, thank you for that update. And of course, it's the story here on KTN News. We'll closely continue to follow for you, even as it develops tomorrow in that special seating.